80-million-year-old sleeping beauty. In the summer of 1969, an incredible and little-known discovery was made in the tiny village of Rzhavchik-Tisulskago in the Kemerovo region of Russia. During stripping work at the local coal mine, a miner named Karnaukov came across an intricately crafted marble coffin approximately 70 meters below the surface of the earth. What was inside it has the potential to change human understanding of the history of this planet. According to the eyewitnesses' accounts, various newspaper articles, and some secret investigations, a sarcophagus filled with mysterious pink liquid was extracted by coal miners in the village of Rzhavchik of the Tisulsky district in the Kemerovo region. Inside the sarcophagus was an intact corpse of a beautiful woman of Slavic appearance in a transparent dress from an unknown material. The mysterious stone coffin was buried 70 meters inside an untouched 20-meter coal seam. Miner Alexander Karnaukov found this large marble sarcophagus with elaborately carved ornaments. The main witness of the case is a man named Oleg Kulishkin, who claimed to have heard the story from a former colonel of the KGB who was involved in the extraction. According to his account, the incident occurred in early September of 1969. When the coffin was brought to the surface and opened gently, a putty around the edges ripped off and a strange liquid flowed from inside it. They found the body of a beautiful young woman, about 30 years old, preserved perfectly in a brim with a pinkish-blue crystalline liquid inside the coffin. Besides, a black rectangular metal object, 25 by 10 centimeters, was placed closer to the head of the corpse. It is said that one of the workers, present at the site, tasted the liquid, and a week later, he went crazy and died. Soon the news came out, and the whole village arrived to see the mysterious discovery. Later, when the finding was reported to the district center, the area commander Alexander Alexandrovich Masaligin ordered to halt the work, and firemen, military police, arrived in great numbers. A brick-colored helicopter flew overhead from the region and handed over a dozen respectable comrades in civilian clothes, who immediately declared that the place was contagious and ordered those present to move away from the coffin. All the necessary evidence was collected from the site, and the coffin was taken away by helicopter by the authorities' order. According to an unknown professor from Novosibirsk, the age of burial is at least 800 million years, which challenges Darwin's theory of evolution. The alleged woman in the casket was buried in the Carboniferous period of the Paleozoic era, millions of years before the appearance of the dinosaurs. Basically, an extraterrestrial version also emerged, but the result of the genetic test was 100% identical to that of a modern Russian man. Today we are the same as our predecessors 800 million years ago. The level of civilization to which the woman belonged is more than any known civilization, including ours. The researchers who examined and analyzed the fabric used to make the dress were baffled because they could not determine its nature and its age. They concluded that the technology used to manufacture the fabric is unknown today, and that it was much more advanced than present-day technology. The composition of the pink-blue liquid has not yet been determined. Only some of its constituent components have been identified, formed by the oldest varieties of onion and garlic. In 2007, Roman Yanchenko, a journalist from the Russian newspaper Sibdepo, decided to verify the legends of the Tisul princess, so he visited the place where it all had happened. According to his research, Tatyana Pavlovna Karnaukova, a wife of miner Karnaukov, died 5 years ago as a result of a prolonged serious illness. Besides, others who worked in a quarry died in a series of strange circumstances. In addition, several people tried to find out the truth of things. One of them continued to press the issue, and he died 2 months later. Perhaps this was a cover-up of sorts. Several other witnesses died as well. The remaining people in the area kept their silence in fear for their lives. The government returned in 1973 and sealed off the area. They thoroughly searched the area and found 2 more similar graves. All of their coffins were made from strange materials still not yet identified. These graves were discovered by the shore of a lake known as Berchikul. This lake is 6 kilometers from Rajavchik. The government never disclosed further information about the other gravesite discoveries. Some researchers compare the legend of Princess Tisul with Alexander Pushkin's poem The Tale of the Dead Princess and the Seven Heroes. There is a high mountain behind the slowly flowing river. There is a deep hole in which, in that hole, in the sad darkness, the glass coffin is moving in the chains between the pillars. There is no trace of anyone around that empty place. In that coffin is his girlfriend. The details mentioned by Oleg Kulishkin in his article also cannot be ignored. Firstly, the village of Rahavchik really exists, and there, in the indicated years, a coal mine actually worked. In fact, Alexander Ivanovich Karnaukov worked on the development of coal. However, he was not a miner, but a blacksmith of the mine. Although very little is known about the nature of the strange findings, but residents of the village of Rahavchik willing to confirm the story of the Tisulsky princess. What's notable, the perfectly preserved 800-million-year-old body of a beautiful girl in Russia is not the only real-life version of the Sleeping Beauty. The Lady in Red. Lady in Red is a popular song from 1986 by Chris de Burgh, and that's typically what comes to mind when people first hear this title. However, Mississippi has its own Lady in Red, and she still remains a great mystery even today. In 1969, a backhoe on Egypt Plantation near Kruger, Mississippi, hit a coffin just 1 meter underground. Workmen accidentally came across the coffin while digging for a septic system. They were shocked to discover an expensive, glass-sealed cast-iron casket with a window. Inside, a perfectly preserved young woman with long auburn hair and youthful skin, dressed in a red velvet dress with a lace collar and wearing white gloves and silk leather square-toed boots. Experts estimated her birth date. The date of death on her tombstone is the date of her being unearthed on Egypt Plantation, 1835-1969. The following account of the remarkable preservation of the body is from the Clarion Ledger, August 29, 1969. The unidentified woman was discovered a few days ago in a metal glass-lined casket in a garden plot on Egypt Plantation and near the home occupied by the J.T. Thomas family. It was discovered by a crew of workmen operating a backhoe while digging a septic tank line. Persons viewing the woman, who has been described as in her 20s or 30s, dressed in red velvet with long brown hair, estimate she has been dead at least 75 years. The method of preservation used for the Lady in Red was common prior to the Civil War, when custom-made caskets, shaped to the body, were ordered as one would order a dress. The glass that sealed the coffin was placed over the body, and alcohol was poured inside until it was level full, and then sealed with a cast-iron tip. When the backhoe machine hit the coffin, alcohol spilled from the casket, and spots of the liquid were seen on the folds of the woman's dress. Folk or forgotten lore. There are several accounts from individuals claiming to know the backstory of the Lady in Red. At the time, it was thought that Egypt Plantation was a stop for riverboats coming up the Yazoo River to Greenwood. There was some speculation that the Lady in Red could have been a passenger on a paddle-wheel riverboat when she died. Another account from local residents in Chula speaks of how they were taught that the young girl was hurriedly buried when it was thought she had a fever of some unknown origin, likely yellow fever. For fear of being contagious, she was buried at the first river port available for the riverboat. There are two versions of this particular story, one being she died on the boat, and the other that the body casket was being taken somewhere. Either way, both versions end with the burial, resulting in a plan to get her off the boat as quickly as possible to prevent anyone from possibly catching the fever she supposedly died from. Lastly, another local account speaks about how there was a flood of high water the year she died, around 1900, and no place dry to bury her, so they put her in a boat and went out to find a spot of dry land. The location in Egypt was 7 miles down from where she lived. They would have drifted that way in a boat. The story goes that they found a dry spot and buried her there. The Lady in Red burial ground was moved to the Oddfellows Cemetery in Lexington, MS, and has become a tourist attraction for tourists and locals alike in the Delta. It is indeed a mystery that remains to be solved, and for the naturally curious, it's hard not to wonder, who was the Lady in Red? Oriental Sleeping Beauty, Lady Di. In the 1970s, Chinese archaeological experts found a strange coffin near the city of Changsha. Inside, they found over 1,000 perfectly preserved artifacts, along with the tomb belonging to Xinjui, the wife of the ruler of the Han imperial fiefdom of Dai. Xinjui, the Lady of Dai, died between 178 and 145 BC at around 50 years of age. The objects inside her tomb indicated a woman of wealth and importance, and one who enjoyed the good things in life. But it was not the precious goods and fine fabrics that immediately caught the attention of archaeologists. Rather, it was the extraordinarily well-preserved state of her remains that captured their eyes. Despite the fact that she had been buried for over 2 millennia, her skin was still moist and elastic, her joints still flexible. Every feature still remained intact down to her eyelashes and the hair in her nostrils, and blood still remained in her veins. When she was removed from the tomb, oxygen took an immediate toll on her body, and so the state in which she is seen today does not accurately reflect how she was found. Nevertheless, when forensic scientists conducted an autopsy on the diva mummy, they were stunned to discover that the body was in the same state as an individual who had recently died. The autopsy revealed that all her organs were still intact, even down to the lungs vagus, nerve, which is as thin as hair. Blood clots were found in her veins, and evidence was found of a coronary heart attack, as well as a host of other ailments and diseases, such as diabetes, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, liver disease, and gallstones. The Lady Di died of a heart attack at the age of 50, brought on by obesity, lack of exercise, and an overindulgent diet. When they were still studying her organs, the pathologist found 138 undigested melon seeds in her esophagus, stomach, and intestines. Melon seeds take about 1 hour to digest, so scientists were able to determine that she died shortly after eating some melons. Archaeologists and pathologists have not determined all the factors behind her state of preservation, but they have a few clues. Lady Di was found in an airtight tomb 12 meters underground, locked inside 4 layers of coffins. A thick layer of white paste-like soil was on the floor. Her body had been swaddled in 20 layers of silk, and she was found in 80 liters of an unknown liquid that was mildly acidic with some magnesium in it. The layers of caskets were put inside a compartment in the center of a funnel-shaped, clay-lined, massive cypress burial vault. 5 tons of moisture-absorbing charcoal was packed around the vault. The top was sealed with 1 meter of additional clay. Hard rammed pieces of earth filled the shaft all the way to the surface. No substance of any kind was able to get in or out of the sealed tomb. Decay causing bacteria trapped inside would quickly die because of the lack of oxygen. Destructive groundwater could not penetrate the sturdy barriers. The result of such diligent hard work that went into sealing and protecting the late Lady Di was a cool, highly humid, almost sterile environment. Archaeologists found Lady Di's burial chamber filled with more than 1,000 precious goods. Fine fabrics, bizarre delicacies such as caterpillar fungus, a complete wardrobe of more than 100 silk garments, 182 pieces of lacquerware, and 162 carved wooden figurines that represented the large army of servants who would tend to her needs in the afterworld. The opulence found within the tomb revealed a world where the rich and powerful not only desired to live forever, they expected to. The lacquerware was regarded as the most precious precious of all manufactured goods. The collection of plates, bowls, trays, vases, basins, and toilet boxes were all part of the treasures, their deep black and bold red coating almost as perfect as the day it was buried. The Lady Di was also buried with a massive array of foods and fine cuisine stored in 30 bamboo cases and several dozen pottery containers, including wheat, lentils, lotus roots, strawberries, pears, dates, plums, pork, venison, beef, lamb, hare, dog, goose, duck, chicken, pheasant, turtle dove, sparrow, crane, fish, eggs, and owl. The common people of this time period ate nothing of the sort. Their diet had basic wheat, millet, barley, and soybeans. While the factors surrounding Lady Di's burial appear to solve the question as to how such an incredible state of preservation was achieved, scientists today have not been able to replicate it using modern methods, nor have they discovered the source of the mystery fluid found within the tomb. In fact, other tombs containing bodies similarly preserved were found within a few hundred miles of Lady Di, but each time the liquid appeared to have different properties. After all, the mystery of sleeping beauties remains unsolved. But the lack of answers only makes these enigmas more intriguing. History is flush with such unsolved mysteries, from lost burial sites to buried treasures, which have captivated the public imagination for centuries. Sometimes, that's because the relevant excavated material has been lost or an archaeological site has been destroyed. Other times, it's because new evidence is unlikely to come forward or the surviving evidence is too vague to lead scholars to a consensus. Here are top mysteries that still have us scratching our heads. Where is Cleopatra's tomb? Finding the burial place of Cleopatra VII, who is usually considered the last monarch of the Ptolemaic dynasty that ruled Egypt after the death of Alexander the Great, and therefore the last pharaoh of Egypt, would undoubtedly be one of the crowning archaeological achievements in modern history. The problem is, no one knows where to look. Conventional wisdom places Cleopatra's tomb beside her palace in an area of ancient Alexandria that is now submerged beneath the Mediterranean Sea. If this is the case, the tomb is likely lost forever. But a few researchers have set their sights on Taposiris Magna, the location of a temple dedicated to Osiris, the Egyptian ruler of the realm of the dead, near Alexandria's western outskirts. Since Cleopatra wanted to associate herself and her Roman lover, Mark Antony, with Osiris and his sister wife Isis, some believe it stands to reason that the two could be interred there. Excavations at Taposiris Magna were still underway in 2023 and have so far yielded 16 burial chambers, mummies with golden tongues, funeral masks, coins engraved with the legendary queen's face, and a tunnel more than 1,200 meters long, but no signs of Cleopatra. What happened to the Mary Celeste? If you've heard of the Mary Celeste, you can thank Arthur Conan Doyle. The unexplained abandonment of the ship in 1872 and the still unknown fate of the 10 people aboard might have been forgotten if not for Conan Doyle publishing a sensational short story about the fictional Marie Celeste in 1884 that captured the popular imagination and turned the American merchant ship into one of the most enduring maritime mysteries of all time. In terms of solving the mystery of the Mary Celeste and the fate of its captain, his wife, and 2-year-old daughter, and its 7-man crew, Doyle's highly fictionalized account, involving a missing African artifact and a murderous mutiny led by a man who had been born into enslavement in America, was unhelpful. But the official inquiry conducted years earlier had also failed to come up with any reason for the crew to have abandoned a seaworthy vessel. There was over 1 meter of water in the hold, and a pump had been dismantled, and the ship's lifeboat was gone. But the ship was safe and operable when it was found drifting near the Azores Islands, and the crew who found it had no trouble sailing it 800 miles to Gibraltar to file a salvage claim. In 2006, a chemistry professor at University College London proposed a solution: a pressure wave type of explosion caused by the ship's cargo around 1,700 barrels of industrial alcohol, and some unknown spark had caused little damage but frightened the crew into abandoning the vessel. But other researchers have discounted the theory. While the mystery around the Mary Celeste remains unsolved, it continues to serve as inspiration for storytellers. Season 4 of True Detective was partially inspired by the abandoned ship as well as the Dyatlov Pass incident, another historical head-scratcher. Where is William Kidd's treasure hidden? William Kidd, more commonly known as Captain Kidd, was an infamous Scottish privateer who sailed the seas in the late 1600s. He was commissioned to arrest pirates by the British government, but was ultimately hanged for piracy himself in 1701. Before his ignominious death, Kidd captured and plundered many ships, but the one that got him in hot water was the Quedagh Merchant, a ship with an English captain sailing with French regulatory papers, known as passes, and carrying goods belonging to the nobleman of the Mughal Emperor's court in South Asia, Frederick Hanselman, an underwater archaeologist at Indiana University, wrote in his book, Captain Kidd's Lost Ship, The Wreck of the Quedagh Merchant. This caused the British to brand Kidd as a pirate. When Kidd found out, he sailed to New York on another vessel in an attempt to clear his name. The Quedagh Merchant was abandoned shortly after Kidd left, and its wreck was found in 2007. Kidd claimed he pilfered around 100,000 British pounds, around $20 million today, and buried it somewhere, offering to trade the location for his life, according to a letter he wrote to the British government, which is now in the British National Archives. The offer was refused, and he was executed. To his dying breath, Kidd argued he was a legitimate privateer who had only ever plundered targets approved by the Crown. But he was hung, and his body covered with pitch and squeezed in an iron cage displayed over the Thames. Either way, none of this treasure has ever been recovered, and likely never will be. Is the Copper Scroll treasure real? In 1952, a copper scroll was found by archaeologists in a cave, along with other Dead Sea Scrolls, at the site of Qumran. As its name suggests, the writing was engraved onto a copper scroll. The scroll records a vast amount of hidden gold and silver treasure. The scroll dates back more than 1,500 years to a time when the Roman Empire controlled the Qumran area. There were a number of revolts against Roman rule at the time the scroll was written, and scientists have hypothesized that the treasure was hidden to prevent its capture by Roman forces. Whether the treasure is real, where exactly it was hidden, whether it was ever found, and whether it could still exist today, are all mysteries that will likely never be solved. How and why were the Olmec heads made? Long before the Maya, at least the classical period of Maya, and Aztecs built sophisticated civilizations in what is now Central America and Mexico, the area was home to the Olmecs, a society that flourished around 3,200 to 2,400 years ago. As the first great civilization of Mesoamerica, the Olmecs are sometimes considered a mother culture that influenced many of the peoples who would come in their wake. They cultivated an extensive trade network and possessed impressive engineering skills, but we know them best for the spectacular art they left behind, including approximately 17 colossal stone heads that have been discovered to date. The mystery of the heads is twofold. First, their size, some are nearly 3 meters tall, and they weigh about 8 tons on average, would have presented enormous logistical challenges. Each head is carved from a single volcanic basalt boulder, and each of those boulders had to be moved more than 50 miles from where it was sourced. How did they do it? And second, why did they go to all that trouble? Given the resources and labor required to transport and create them, and the fact that they appear to depict distinct individuals, most archaeologists think the heads are portraits of powerful Olmec rulers, though some have suggested they could represent ballgame players who were maybe not that good. As for how they were moved such long distances, several theories have been suggested, ranging from wooden rollers to enormous rafts to temporary causeways built specifically for their transport. Answering these questions would fill in some important blanks in our knowledge of human history, but so far, researchers can only make educated guesses. What were the Nazca lines for? The Nazca lines are an array of geoglyphs carved into the coastal plain of southern Peru. Some are simply straight lines running in all directions, while others depict animals or people. The lines were studied by researchers traveling on foot in the 1920s, but it wasn't until commercial pilots began flying over the area in the 1930s that their full scope and elaborate design was revealed. According to UNESCO, the Nazca lines are unmatched in their extent, magnitude, quantity, size, diversity, and ancient tradition to any similar work in the world. They were built over the course of 1,000 years, mostly by removing darker stones to reveal the lighter-colored sand underneath. The question that still puzzles researchers is, why were the geoglyphs made? For decades, some archaeologists believed they served as giant astronomical calendars, possibly linked to constellations or other celestial bodies. Recent research suggests a more earthly purpose. It now appears that the Nazca lines might have been connected to rituals meant to appeal to the gods for rain. It's possible they marked processional routes used by pilgrims as they traveled to temples, or that rituals were performed at designated points along the lines themselves. Who created the Paracas candelabra? The Paracas candelabra, an enigmatic geoglyph etched into the sandy hillsides of the Paracas Peninsula in Peru, stands as a silent sentinel of ancient mysteries. Stretching approximately 182 meters in length, its intricate design resembles a candlestick or candelabra, hence its evocative name. Though pottery found at the site has been dated to around 200 BC, no one knows the age of the candelabra itself. While some estimates suggest a creation date as far back as 200 BCE, others place its origins closer to the 4th century CE. Its purpose and the culture responsible for its construction are equally shrouded in mystery. The Paracas culture and the Nazca culture, both of which inhabited the region, are among the leading contenders. The construction of the Paracas candelabra is as baffling as its purpose. Crafted by removing the reddish-brown surface stones and revealing the lighter-colored sand beneath, it stands as a testament to ancient craftsmanship and ingenuity. However, the method and tools employed in its creation remain unknown, adding layers of intrigue to its already mysterious allure. Numerous theories abound regarding the purpose of the Paracas candelabra. Some speculate it served as a navigational aid for ancient sailors, guiding them along the perilous coastline. Others propose religious or ceremonial significance, suggesting it may have been linked to the worship of celestial bodies or ancient deities. Additionally, there are theories suggesting it marked the presence of underground water sources, crucial in the arid desert landscape. What does the Voynich manuscript say? We don't know when, where, or by whom the Voynich manuscript was written, but there's an even larger mystery to solve. We have absolutely no idea what it even says. The text, which is accompanied by astrological charts, illustrations of strange plants and naked, possibly pregnant women emerging from tubes and funnels or wading in green fluid, and other bizarre images, is composed in a writing system that doesn't appear on any other document or object we've discovered so far. Ohm, including the late U.S. Army cryptographer William Friedman, believe Voynich was written in a synthetic language. Others think the manuscript uses a dead language such as Proto-Romance, a precursor of vulgar Latin, or that it could be written in some form of code or cipher. Whatever the case, the book is divided into 6 sections. One devoted to botanical studies, one that is apparently concerned with astrological and astronomical matters, one that contains elaborate and super weird biological drawings, a section containing what Yale University, the book's keeper since 1969, identifies as cosmological medallions, a section dedicated to pharmaceutical sketches, and a text-only portion devoted to what appear to be recipes. Since bookseller Wilfred Voynich found the manuscript in 1912, secreted in a bundle of medieval manuscripts he'd purchased from a Jesuit college, The book and its complicated history have been obsessively studied and analyzed. Carbon dating tells us the manuscript's vellum was sourced in the early 15th century. Pigments are consistent with that date as well, so that's presumably when it was written. We know, or at least we think we know, it's been owned by a Holy Roman Emperor, an alchemist, a famed Bohemian doctor, and possibly Elizabethan occultist and court astrologer John Dee. If any of its previous custodians figured out how to read it, they kept it to themselves, but you're welcome to give it a go if you're feeling froggy. Who built Stonehenge? Since the 17th century, the popular imagination has linked Stonehenge to the Druids, but the timeline doesn't shake out. The earliest historical references to the Druids date to the 4th century BCE, while Stonehenge was most likely built sometime between 3000 and 2000 BCE. But if the Druids didn't build it, who did? There might not be one simple answer. Construction of Stonehenge is thought to have taken place in several phases over the course of about 1500 years. The first monument at Stonehenge simply consisted of a circular earthwork that enclosed dozens of pits and possibly some rocks. The iconic stone slabs were added a few hundred years later, around the same time the Egyptians were building the pyramids at Giza. It's long been thought that Neolithic hunter-gatherers got the ball rolling, but new evidence suggests Stonehenge's builders were the descendants of Mediterranean farmers who migrated to northwestern Europe 6,000 years ago. Whoever Stonehenge's builders were, their accomplishments were astonishing. We're still trying to figure out how Stonehenge was constructed. Some of the stones came from nearby quarries, but others were sourced from a Welsh site 200 miles away. Up to now, we still have no idea how people who didn't even have wheels were able to transport the stones and hoist them into place. That's all the information that we have for you today. Don't forget to give us a thumbs up if you enjoyed today's episode, subscribe if you haven't already, and hit the bell so you never miss out on future episodes. And be sure to also tell us what you think about today's content. Everyone's support motivates us to continue delivering quality content and to always improve. As always, thanks for watching, and we will see you next time.